Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 3 o'clock, roughly. So it's the end of the think tanks. So I hope you had a good discussion, fruitful discussion, and that you made some good contacts and shared some good information. I'm now going to ask the think tank leaders just to give us a very quick roundup of what they discussed and share what was discussed on their table. I'll start over here with Bjorn Svenningsen to find out what happened on the round table or the think tank on digitalization in the finished vehicle logistics industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. The first thing that we actually decided was that it is not digitalization, as the group was called, but it's digitization. So we concluded on that one. We also said that it is important that we have a common definition for this. We said that this is about getting rid of paperwork and paper. It is about visibility. It is about standardization. And we said it's about real time. So all those elements, that's the definition of digitization. We also said that in order to move on, we actually need to start to measure the benefits of this. And that's a responsibility that we as LSPs, but also OEMs, need to look into this. And we need to measure this. And that will actually demonstrate that there are huge potentials in here, and that will increase the speed of implementation. We also said that in this process there's the possibility of added values, something that can be done in the value chain, especially when you have a lot of the telematics in the vehicles. So there are possibilities to adding values in what you are doing in the transportation chain. So I think that's a short summary of what we agreed, basically. And we had a very good discussion in the group here, very efficient, and personally also it was very worthwhile for me, because in the strategy implementation plan for our company for 2017, we have said that we're going to do X number of digitization workshops with OEMs. We had 3 OEMs around the table today, so I can check off 3. So I'm almost done with my goal. So that was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bjorn, and thank you for shortening that word a little bit. So I think next year it will be digitation or something. Let's make it even shorter. And now we're going to be looking at the packaging world. We're going to be looking at the packaging world. I now need to get a bigger phone so I can read this a bit more clearly. Packaging in the world in the sharing economy. So over to Vegard Synnes from CDC. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. So we were a bunch of packaging guys from different companies and different regions. So we spent the first 20 minutes arm wrestling and fighting it out. But then we started talking about how the packaging industry can benefit from working more together, more sharing, perhaps through a bigger pooling solutions, similar to what CHEP is doing, but on a bigger scale with more players involved. We agree that there needs to be a much higher level of standardization in packaging if this is going to be viable. We also talked a little bit about how important trace and track will be if we're going to be putting our different parties' packaging into a pool, pulling it out and placing it all over the country or all over the world, or where it should be. We mentioned that international returnable lanes might be interesting to start looking at for this, because it's hard to find the backhaul. Say, for example, between China and Europe, that was the example that was used. And then we talked about how to solve this, like what kind of systems do we need and who should be in charge of the systems. I think we agree that CHEP is gonna take the lead on this. And no, but we talked about how we need some kind of a new marketplace where you, for example, can offer up your packaging assets that are not being used, so that other players who will need to use, say, for example, if I have a box that are going empty from Shanghai to Berlin. I offered it up, and then perhaps someone else can use this box, fill it up, get it back to Berlin, where I then can get it back into my pool and use it back the other way to China. So we all agree there's a lot of potential, but there's still a long way to go before we can do this efficiently. But at least we got a lot of different people from our different packaging guys together, and we had a very good talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vegard. And now over to the session on understanding the dynamics of big data. And I'd like to hand over to the leader, Murat from DSV.
Thank you. It was really an interesting discussion today. Basically, it started with the definition of big data. Does it really mean a lot of structural data, or that the parts and pieces of real big picture? And it looks like there is still some misunderstandings how we need to read it, what we need to understand. And both LSPs and the partners, we have some long way to work together in hand-to-hand. Not only review the KPIs or the performance, but we must have better collaboration to share our future strategies and read it well. And basically, it needs just further collaboration, understand each other, and be open, share the data we have. That will shape a better logistic future for both of us, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murat. And now we're looking at supply chain as a service. So I'd like to hand over to Vanessa from CHEP. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. Okay, supply chain as a service. First of all, we went through what exactly does that mean. Quite a few different definitions there. But basically, we concluded that the service providers today all work for one customer, but don't work with each other. So, hell of a lot of competition. But if we were able to share knowledge and capacity, for example, we would be able to serve the end customer much better. But there are a lot of challenges in that because it's a very competitive space, and do we really want to share? It's a question of mindset. So we said, okay, well, supply chain as a service is actually a group of services that should be accessed by the end customer in a very transparent way. So transparency was the key word. How to do that, that's still to be determined. But if we had transparency, we would be able to optimize the supply chain in a very efficient way. Basically take out inventory, optimize space. So for a sustainable kind of solution. So really looking at the bigger picture, not just our individual task to the customer. What else did we talk about? Basically, we said that we should actually think about benchmarking each other's services. That was quite a heated topic because how do we do that in such a competitive space? But if we could do that, we would be able to learn from each other and really find synergies for the end customer. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. And now we'll be looking at the future of e-mobility with Christoph from CFR Rinkins. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. We started out with the premise that, let's say, roughly 25% of vehicles on the road will be electric in about 8 to 10 years. If that's the number, nobody really knows, but let's assume that's the number. That's a quite significant amount of cars that need to be moved. What are the typical challenges? We talked about the weight of the cars. Typically, electric cars, because of the battery, are heavier than regular cars. So, for example, for road transport, it may actually reduce the number of cars that can be transported on a truck. For sure, it will increase the fuel cost for the trucker. We talked about charging stations. I can speak from my own experience. When we started shipping for Tesla in 2013, the biggest hurdle really for each touch point was the capability to charge. The batteries at that point didn't hold charges that well, so you had issues with cars just being dead and having to wait to be transported. And that very likely for any company that starts shipping electric cars, that will become an issue. So charging station or the charging capability is likely the key issue going forward. With the electrification of cars goes along with the increasing digitization of cars. So there's a good chance that there will likely be advantages, but also challenges when it comes to cars just being completely reliable on electric and on computers, and nobody can really know yet what those challenges will at the end of the day be. We're lucky to have David from Jaguar Land Rover. He's been involved with the logistics around the upcoming I-Pace SUV electric car. It looks beautiful. So he has quite a bit of insight into what JLR is concerned about. I guess it's fair to say it's about the transport of the battery. That's a discussion. You know, does it have to be temperature controlled? Is it going to be built in-house in the future? Is it going to be third party? The logistics of components in general, the battery is very heavy, the drive unit is very heavy, so that changes dynamics of parts logistics. Some general stuff we talked about is, you know, all in all, it's probably fair to say that there's not a lot of experience yet, but that has to change rather quickly as the volume increases. So we're going to see a lot of adaptation in the next few years. Yeah, and then, you know, maybe there's also going to be advantages that we don't know yet about. Cars becoming more autonomous goes along with the electrification, and, you know, we're going to see cars parking themselves, moving around the yards, and being smart. Let me see, what else? That's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pleased to hear about that discussion. And now we're over to find about the one leg or door-to-door solution with Adam Pohl. So, thank you, Lukáš.
Thank you, Louis. Okay, maybe I'll stand. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank you our attendance. So we had very interesting discussion. So we had a representative from OEM, Marussia, also Daniel, and our teacher, Mr. Hedelmeier, who learned us a lot today. So the answer is in 95% door-to-door solution. 5% is the Marussia said that maybe not always, because it also depends of the transparency. If the transparency will be the full, then she agreed that door-to-door solution is a good way. So from our side, as Adam Pohl and Hedelmeier, we agree that if the OEMs can trust us more and give us the chance to provide a good service and the chance to work together in the countries where we are not enough strong to work alone, then for sure it will be beneficial for them. And maybe Mr. Hedelmeier would ask us one sentence. What kind of percentage? No, maybe you can conclusion.
The conclusion was never take away the know-how in logistics. First, the second, we are all sitting in the same boat, finding the best solution with the best price that the client is enthusiastic, and that's our job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lukáš and Johannes. And now connected logistics to Hartmut from Inform.
Thank you, Louis, and thank you, Mr. Hödelmeier, for the nice introduction. Very nice picture of being connected in the way that we are sitting in the same boat. In fact, we are. The first finding in this group was that all participants, besides myself, were OEMs. So no LSP in this connected group. So we concluded that OEMs feel connected to the topic of connected logistics, as they are probably, at least for the time being, the enablers who are most in the position to connect people in the different lids in the supply chain, as we then called them, because we were also talking about the definition. So connected logistics starts with the customers and customers deciding for something, with trends, then it goes down to parts, then it goes to in-plant, then it goes to finished vehicle logistics, then it goes to the customer who perhaps wants something slightly different at the end of the day. So this is the definition from our round. So everybody in this round had examples of successful connected logistics already. This is not something completely new, especially if we look into inbound. Lots of things are standard there, which are less standard in other areas of the logistics chain. So some were mentioned as introducing IT platforms that provide transparency end to end, at least end-to-end to a section, in this case inbound. Then there is a small disruption in the plant, and then by surprise vehicles come out of that plant because there is maybe not platforms that cover the complete chain. And so we were discussing then what are the current inhibitors? So where do we have disconnects? And the first disconnect is messages don't arrive. So we imagined in a future world, all messages would arrive. So what would be the next hurdle to take? And then we come in the world of fluctuations. So fluctuations happen, and the next lid needs to stick to the plan of the first lid, so all lids depend on each other, and it's about sharing plans. But fluctuations happen, so making connected logistics means everybody is obliged to put energy in sticking to a plan. Yeah? It's not the first lid has an exception, so they request to react from the second lid. Yeah? So everybody needs to feel a responsibility to stick to a plan, and then connected logistics can be improved. So if we imagine in a world that everybody puts energy in sticking to the plan, what would be the next hurdle? Then there was a lack of standardization. So how do we exactly communicate about sticking to the plans, and how do we exactly plan our resources to jointly work on a better plan and work on a better execution? Then there is benefits in the chain that may need to be distributed in a partnership type of approach, or we played with the approach people are paid for just doing that and that's it. And then at the end of the day, we came to a smart logistics, where every part in the chain knows what needs to happen in this. So this would mean moving from a central world that we are still working on, moving into a more smarter world where every vehicle knows what has to do, where every package knows what to do with it. And then sharing that kind of information leads to trust issues and privacy issues. So working on connected trust becomes maybe an even more important issue than it is today. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Hartmut. Again, just to thank everyone for their participation in the roundtables and in the automotive logistics think tanks. I hope you found them useful. I hope the kind of point of the think tanks got across, that it was an opportunity to just have a small group discussion and to see, I genuinely feel, and I've been told, that you have a different kind of discussion in a small group. So that was the aim of the roundtables and the think tanks. It seemed like they were very interesting conclusions. I hope you all found good value from them. And that you made good contacts, new contacts, different contacts. If there's anything we can do to continue the discussion, firstly, as a group yourselves, I presume you've exchanged business cards or contact details. If there's anyone who you couldn't really do that with for whatever reason, then let us know and we'll try to connect you. If there's a discussion or even a topic within the discussion that you'd like to continue in some way, then let us know and see what we can do to help to continue these discussions, whether we do it online, whether we do it as editorial, whether we do it at future conferences, or just offline conversations and making small groups on LinkedIn or something. Anything we can do to help to continue the discussion in the group. We heard earlier, of those of you who weren't in the finished vehicle logistics session, that quite an important initiative for finished vehicle logistics started off at last year's conference, where we had the right people together. They started talking about the subject, and it continued, and it's now something that's really progressing, that's very important for the finished vehicle logistics industry. That's what we're all about, is bringing people together to have discussions and to move the industry forward. I think, we'd like to think that we're not just a conference organizer, that we're part of the industry, and it's very important to us that we encourage change, difference, movement in the industry, move the industry forward. So genuinely, anything we can do to help to help this discussion. It's not about 2 days in a room or something like that. So please keep connected with us, with me, with Christopher, our editor, who you all know, and keep sharing the information. If it's through us, that's great. If it's individually, if it's through ECG, which is a great association, let's keep these discussions going. You know, don't just walk away thinking, well, that was an interesting discussion. Go back to your day job and don't really think about it until June 2018. So I hope you enjoyed the roundtables, and please enjoy your coffee break. Thank you.